Welcome to The Hot Dish, comfort food for rural America. I'm Heidi Heitkamp.
And I'm Joel Heitkamp. Today, we've got a great story of small town folks coming together to help others in their community.
But first, I want to tell you about the 2025 Rural Champion Awards. Every year, the One Country Project recognizes elected officials who have provided leadership and legislation to improve rural life, support agriculture, and diversify our rural economy. Everyone awarded this year has worked tirelessly to better the lives of rural people, whether that's through legislation, maintaining Social Security benefits, championing paid family leave, improving rural health care, or increasing broadband internet access nationally. So please join us in congratulating many of my friends, Senator Ron Wyden from Oregon, Senator Catherine Cortez Masto from Nevada, Representative Christy Houlihan from Pennsylvania, Representative Angie Craig from Minnesota right next door, Senator Tom Tillis from North Carolina, and Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham from New Mexico.
If you want to learn more about these rural champions, visit onecountryproject.org. That's onecountryproject.org. Now, let me introduce today's guest. Kellie Smith owns Kellie Smith's Floral in Perham, Minnesota, a town of 3,700 people, about 90 minutes southwest of Fargo. Kellie saw people in need this Christmas and decided to step up and do something about it. Kellie, welcome to the Hot Dish, and thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Kellie, Joel and I grew up in a town of 90 people, and we know that nothing happens in a town like that without leadership from folks like you. But before we talk about, what got you engaged and involved in this work, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you ended up in Perham?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. So I was born and raised on a ranch in northwestern Colorado. So both my parents were entrepreneurs and in the service industry. So that's kind of where my heart kind of just grew to appreciate the acts of service. My family's originally from Minnesota, both rural towns in Minnesota. So in the summers, we'd come back to Minnesota and spend time at my grandparents' resort. So eventually, years later, I graduated college. They were looking for somebody to run the resort for a season. I ran it for a season, which turned into 10 seasons. And I met my
you're
husband.
You're a brave woman. That's so much work.
It's so much work, but it was so gratifying to be able to say, like, I know how to change a septic pump and I can rewire electricity stuff. And I got to live at the lake, so I couldn't complain. But that's where I met my husband, who is originally born and raised here in Perham. So that's kind of what put me here.
So you're not really a transplant.
No.
Plus, you look a little Norwegian, so we're going to count you as one of ours. You can't escape.
No, I definitely look the part of being a Minnesotan.
For people don't who are listening or watching the podcast, they don't know about Perham. And Perham is like a beautiful, beautiful small town. Can you tell us a little bit about your small town, and then we can talk about what you've been doing to make Christmas a happy day for everyone in your small town?
Yes, of course. So I agree. Perham is a gem. It was one of the towns that I was originally drawn to when I first started coming back to this area in Minnesota. It is a thriving community. It has lots of industry. It's very progressive with wanting to, provide new access to a lot of things for people that live here and bring in tourists to the area too. So all of our small businesses can really thrive. We have a lot going on in Perham for such a small town. It feels big, but with a very nice small town feel.
So, Kellie, not everybody is nice in Perham. I just want to go on record on that. I refereed some football over there, and I got called it. Actually, I think I got a couple wrong. So yeah, everybody is nice in Perham. Right. So, Kellie, tell people what you're doing to make Christmas special for everybody.
Yeah, thank you so much. It started, honestly, just driving around with my daughter. Like I said, Perham has so many things going for it, but we took notice that there wasn't a community tree and a community space where people maybe, if they needed an extra hand or an extra just helping hand or gifts during the holiday season, there was nothing like that for anybody. So my daughter and I were like, it doesn't seem that hard to do. So why don't we just come from a place of yes and figure it out? So this idea came to us early November, and we're like, okay, we need a tree, we need lights. I reached out to some good friends of mine, and I had a friend build a shed, and we reached out to the community, and people have been donating all these wonderful gifts, non-perishable food items, clothing, blankets, mittens, hats, everything you can imagine into this shed next to this community tree that's lit up downtown, and people can access it whenever they need. So people can take what they need. They don't have to, register. They don't have to, ask to take anything. And then if people are in a space to provide extra gifts for our community, they can leave them at that shed too, and then enjoy the extra joy from the tree.
So how have people kind of received it? Like, why didn't we do this years ago? Or, wow, this is a great idea. I want to help. Let's expand it and maybe do something more regionally. What's
Yeah.
been the reaction?
So the city of Perham was fantastic. I am known to come up with these random crazy ideas. So John Smith, our city manager, I'm sure when he gets my text messages or phone calls, he's like, "Oh, it's Kellie. Like, what's happening?" So I reached out to him, and he's just like, "No, this is a fantastic idea." And usually we have to go through, certain steps to get permits and everything to do something like this. But they're like, there's such a need, especially now, and the holidays are always a time that are hard for people. So he's like, let's just do it and let's see what happens. And if it is a good thing, we're just going to continue it every year. So that was very promising and encouraging for me. The community itself has been very supportive. Like I said, put out a little article in the newspaper about it. And that day there was so many gifts brought into the shed. And then it was nice to see that as you would go back each day, gifts would be gone. So people are utilizing it, and then new gifts would be brought in. So it's a beautiful display of how our community shows up for one another. And how we just all want to support each other. We're all family, regardless, of your political affiliation, anything, religion. We're all here because we all love each other, and we can just show up however is easiest. So it's been great.
All
Everybody
right,
has a
Kellie,
great response to it.
I want to know about the shed. You don't just
Yeah.
build a shed. I mean, your friend that built that shed, when you pull in the driveway, does he go, "Here comes Kellie again"? I mean,
Well, actually, so I threw out this idea, like I was just thinking a smaller, like the public libraries where people can grab books. I was envisioning something not super large, but it's actually my friend Darcy, and she's just like challenge accepted, and she built it in 2 weeks, and it's
Wow.
4 foot by 4 foot building, and it's beautiful. She painted it to look very festive and holiday. It has shelving, it has these windows, has a beautiful overhang. Yeah, and I was like, this is huge. I hope we have enough to fill it. Jam packed with items the first day. So it was amazing. The shed is the biggest gift. So I have to give props to my friend Darcy.
I I I I think that what we always forget is there's so much talk about division in communities. There's so much
Hmm.
talk about political rancor or, neighbors not getting along. And that's what makes viral TikTok videos, I
Right.
guess. But, there's not a lot of attention to the kind of work and the kind of collaboration across all kinds of divides, all kinds of ideological divides that, we don't get a lot of attention to that. And
I
it just
agree.
seems to me that this is something that can help bridge those divides, can help,
Hmm.
build those relationships and communities that will prevent the deterioration of kind of the social fabric of small towns.
I agree. And one of the things that I've noticed too is I think everybody always wants to help, but sometimes they just don't know how, or they don't have the maybe they're a little nervous to put themselves out there. So that's where it's been really nice to just have this available, and people can do what they can to help. And if they need to use it, they can just use it, and it's kind of just there for everyone, and they don't have to put themselves out there and feel uncomfortable either.
so
So
knowing Perham the way you know it, I,
yeah,
I bet it didn't surprise you as much that it filled as much as that it
right,
emptied.
right.
And it just the way rural people are made. It's like, do I? How good did it feel when it emptied?
Honestly, I have gone out there, like I go out every other day just to check things. And every single time I get emotional because it's so wonderful that the people that need the support are getting it and that our community is showing up for them too. So it amazes me every single time I go out there.
So the little kids, to me in school, you're always looking for a way to teach your kids to give.
Yep.
Did the schools work with you as well, Kellie?
So I sent out details to the schools, to the secretary program, so they shared it with families and the kids. And there's been people that have posted pictures on like my personal Facebook page of them taking their kids to drop off items. So it's been really cool to just watch that became part of their holiday season, part of their learning to give or learning to support with their family. So kids are definitely involved, and they've had different organizations too, like the kinship and stuff have brought their clients out there and kind of dropped off things. And some will just go out there and help organize items because so much is brought in every day. So it's just been a beautiful, beautiful project that in my heart, I had no idea that it was going to get this big and be celebrated like it is. And so it's been wonderful.
I think sometimes, and Joel and I grew up in an affluent area, lots of wealthy farmers, but yet there's need. And I think that it's hard sometimes for communities to see that because number one, rural people have a lot of pride. They don't want people to know that they're struggling. Has that been a barrier to people coming and getting some assistance, or, how has the community responded to the amount of need that you're demonstrating as you run this project?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I am not 100% on how to answer that because I think Perham offers so many great assistance programs too. We have a wonderful food pantry. We have Someplace Safe. We have the kinships. And the churches in our community are wonderful. So I feel like there's always places for community members to get help. And I feel like maybe this giving shelf that I started is just another way for them to get it with maybe not having to talk to somebody or face somebody. They can just go at their leisure. It's open 24 hours a day. So we have a little motion light in there. So if they're uncomfortable and they don't want judgment or they feel, insecure about any part of it, they can go at midnight and no one would know any different. But we just wanted, that was important to me, is I just wanted it to be accessible. Like around the clocks, or if somebody's working shift work, they can still go and get something for their children if they need, or food. So I hope that it's just been, received really well that way.
Kellie, you mentioned religion, oftentimes, and I notice it at weddings and funerals and other things where they come together, where priests and ministers and this is one, as you mentioned, it doesn't matter what denomination you are. That everybody comes together. They're not getting wrapped up in the fact that this is Lutheran, this is Catholic, this is That's got to feel good. The fact that everybody's working together through the pulpit on this.
Yes. Oh, it feels fantastic. And as I am getting older, I realize that I just really like to provide a service or encourage any way that I can help support people and make them feel seen and celebrated. So that for me has been wonderful to just know that people have access to it regardless of denomination or political anything. People can just enjoy it and use it as they need.
One more for me, Kellie. If I were a neighboring town, and believe me, I know the neighboring towns and they yell at you at a football game too. If I were a neighboring town, I'd look at the blueprint. I'd come in and say, okay, what did you do here? And how did you do it? I want to copy this. I want to mimic this. Have you been getting any calls from other towns?
I have not been getting any calls, but I would love that. And I would celebrate that and help with whatever I can. Honestly, it was just from me and my daughter saying, yes, this is easy. Let's do this. So I think other communities could easily do it as well. So.
Yeah. Well, Joel, just be glad you weren't a hockey referee.
Right. Very true.
That might be more dangerous in Perham than so when you look at the kind of work that you do, I mean, being a small business person, I will tell you, I do a lot of work on rural development. I just signed on to chair a national initiative on trying to revitalize rural communities. And people always ask me, what's the secret sauce? I mean, and I just say leadership.
Hmm.
It's people with vision. It's
Yep.
people who can see an opportunity to help, or people who can see an opportunity to build community. Way too often we think that this is about the big, bright, shining object, but it really is about people like you saying, look, I'm just going to do it. And all of a sudden the community chips in, and that makes a difference, and it builds the reputation. And we see it in Hankinson, where Joel and I, where Joel's from, and I spent some time there. I went to high school in Hankinson. The leadership that you've demonstrated here needs to be populated across rural America, whether it is in your business and keeping your business open and being a successful entrepreneur, working hard at that, or whether it's giving back to the community. What advice would you have for someone who maybe says, look, I'm tired of living in the cities, or I'm tired of living in Colorado or in Denver. I want to
Yeah.
find an opportunity someplace else. You obviously did. Obviously, you had a lot of family connections, but
Right.
what advice would you give to them?
I mean, my advice would just be come from a place of yes. I think life is short and experiences are, we can have as many as experiences as we allow ourselves to. I don't think, cutting yourself short to trying things is ever a good idea. So I always just say any gifts you have, regardless of what it is, if you know how to build something, if you know how to market something, just share those and you're still making a difference regardless of what you're doing. So small acts of service make a big impact. So I
Well,
think you just go for it.
Kelly, towns have traditions, and
Right.
you know that.
Yep.
We just went through Santa Claus Day and Turkey Drawing Day where I live. You give out a
Fun.
bunch of turkeys, you give out a bunch of hams, and the biggest question.
Everybody wins a turkey, don't they,
Yeah.
Joel?
Oh,
Oh yeah,
nice.
the biggest question that every day is who's playing Santa Claus. And
Yeah.
so that ends up the big one. And I always get accused of playing Santa Claus, and I never do. I'm
Oh,
the
you
one that
should.
I'm the one that hands out the turkeys, and
Yeah,
I've
you
done
have a
that.
face for Santa Claus, Joel.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and I'm a feminist. Quite frankly, Heidi, the suit would fit you better. But Kelly, we need to resolve this before we let you go. Okay,
Yeah.
is it Perham or Perham?
Well, I say Perham, but a lot of people
There,
do say
Heidi.
Perham too.
Heidi, you said Perham earlier,
I
and
always
it's
say
not
Perham because that's how it's spelled.
Yep.
Full disclosure, our good friend Tessa Gould, I always say, Tessa, are you in DC or are you in Perham?
Right. I feel like it's
No, we know it's
tomato.
Perham.
Yeah.
I think our grandmother wasn't, she was raised not too far from there. And so that's country that we know and we love.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, beautiful lake country, but it's got a lot more than just, resorts to offer. It's got a
It sure
community
does.
vibe, and you're adding to that. And that's an
I
amazing story.
appreciate
But
that.
it's a story that needs to be repeated every place. I mean, Perham is a place that, a lot of tourism, a lot of
Mhm.
people, seasonally come, and that's got to help your business. But that doesn't mean that that's the only thing that happens in Perham.
I agree.
Well,
Thank you.
and let
Yes,
me add,
Perham's
that's the
special.
reason I talked about turkeys. Kelly, I mean,
Yeah.
the Perham area knows a little bit about turkeys.
Oh.
Fair?
Oh, yes. Very fair. Yeah, that's a fair statement.
Kelly, Merry Christmas to you, and Merry Christmas
Thank
to
you.
everybody who did this.
Yeah.
It says so much about your community, and I will be telling the towns that I know so well and travel to that this happened in Perham, and there's
Please
a
do.
blueprint and a
Yeah.
game plan here, and so all we got to do is find that person to be willing to donate or build the shed. And you watch the giving will happen. So thanks for coming
Terrific.
on the hot dish, Kelly. Appreciate it.
Yes. Thank you so much
Terrific.
for
Merry
having me. This was
Christmas.
wonderful. Yes. Merry Christmas to you both.
So Joel, I remember when our oldest nephew, Michael, was dating Bobby, who is now his wife, and she came to the lake for Christmas. And you have this tradition where you go out to the lake and you pump some water, put a little snow embankment, pump some water, and create a nice smooth ice rink. And Bobby said, it's like a Norman Rockwell painting. That was such a nice thing for her to say, I think, given kind of, all the work that goes in that, all the work that you do to make Christmas really festive at your house for the family.
Yeah.
Aren't I nice to you today?
Yeah. Thank you. And it's actually fun. The time I did it this year, the weather was around 30. There was no wind, so it was perfect. I got the pump from Rural Water, which is where I used to work, and all I got to do is drop off a case of beer, borrow that. And I have to tell you, it went well this year. It's going to be smooth, but there's so many people in the family that play hockey, and it's fun to go out and watch them and start that bonfire and sit around and just
And
have fun.
lots of different generations. I mean, from the very littlest one, your granddaughter Tess, she's going to be one mean hockey player.
Well, she better get mean. Yeah, I watched her yesterday, and she's too kind. She needs to learn to check a little bit, but she's a
You
good
don't get
kid.
to check as a child.
Well, yeah, kind of. I mean, here's the thing. Everybody thinks of us in the North Country as being very cold, and many, many times you are spot on, right? I don't argue with that. But it's been a fairly warm winter, and it makes a difference when you live by a lake. And by the way, Heidi has a place by the lake too, so it's just as much hers. But right now, if you come ice fishing in my fish shack, in my fish house, what you're going to find is about 12 inches of ice. And so if you're heavier than me, which it takes some to do, I'll send you out there first, because if you go through, then I don't have to worry about it, right?
Well, yeah, I remember. And the other thing people don't realize is taking wood out onto the ice and starting a bonfire. And people are like, you got fire on this ice floe? And you're like, well, yeah. I mean, it's pretty deep. It'd take a lot of wood to burn through 12 inches of ice, making that possible. But I probably reveal a little bit more than what I care to. But I remember I used to drink 64 beer, which was like 2.2% alcohol. And we were out there.
Which is water, by the way. You should be acting in the series Landman.
But we were out there, and it was, oh man, it must have been 20 below. But dang it, come hell or high water, we were going to go out on the lake for that Christmas. And I remember tipping the beer, and it was frozen.
Yeah,
that's what you get.
Yeah, and here's the thing, if you look out on the lake, what you're going to see is only about 10 fish houses right now, which tells you that the fish aren't biting. It's easy to tell. It's just a little lake I live by, and a lot of times you look out there and there'll be a couple hundred fish houses.
There also was the Christmas, Joel, where the water was pretty much wide open, and it's a spring-fed lake. And I just have to say that somebody had an idea that they should do a polar plunge. Right?
That was you.
Yeah, and it wasn't my idea, but somebody had to. Right, somebody had to represent our generation, Joel. Somebody had to be out there. We can't just let those whippersnappers, take all the credit. I think there's still videos someplace on YouTube.
Well, here's the other part. I can't to this day figure out how you graduated law school, because, it wasn't the brightest thing you ever did, but it looked fun. Fun. I wasn't going to do it.
The advice that I give, and I have a chance to talk to a lot of students, and I give one piece of advice. I say, every year, as you're thinking about your New Year's resolutions, figure out something that you can do that scares the hell out of you.
Yeah.
That you don't want to do. That is not, it takes you completely out of your comfort zone, because the more you can do that, the more you grow. And it doesn't matter if you're 30, 25, 30, or 70. Do something every year that is frightening to you. And I think that is what's kept us young. We just keep doing stuff that a lot of people don't think we should be doing.
Well, but here's the other thing. Where we live, where we grew up, it's flat, right? And so if you want to sled, you got to go to the interstate and sled down. That's as big of a hill as what you're going to get. So I made a hitch, or went to my buddy who's a blacksmith, and he made it. Machinist, I guess, is what they try to call them now. They're blacksmith. And he made a hitch to hook a toboggan to the back of my snowmobile, and now my Polaris Ranger. And so the kids hop on. Now I wore one out And Heidi, you've wrote on that too. And so in my radio show, I mentioned that I wore out a toboggan. Next thing I know, I got a call from a guy in North Fargo who said, I got one. It's used. We don't use it anymore. Come up and get it. This one's 2 feet longer, so we can fit one more kid on it. The problem is we don't got a lot of snow. But you know what? We're going to run it anyway. I'll hook it up to the rig, and you know how I run it, Hyde. We'll see how many I can get off at one time.
You know, that there's just a lot of people who get really discouraged about the materialism of Christmas. And do we have a lot of presents? Yeah. But, you know, there's Christmases at our house where it's almost an afterthought. Oh, yeah, we better open up those presents. I mean, it's pretty amazing because all of these experiences that you create for young people, whether it's going out sledding, whether it is, you know, running a hockey tournament on the lake, whether it is, you know, starting a bonfire and sitting around, those are the things they're going to remember. They're not going to remember that one extra toy that somebody may have given them. And so I think the real lesson here is, you know, think kids are much more interested in the time that you give them than the things that you give them.
Well, and here's the other part. Don't care if you're the youngest of 7 and you didn't get a Christmas gift that year. Because, I mean, here's the thing. Mom and Dad didn't have nothing. Hang in there for the story, would you?
Oh, no.
Okay.
No.
Well, so Mom and Dad didn't have a lot. So they gave the 3 youngest kids a dog, which pretty cool, right? One dog. And the oldest one of those 3, Melanie, took the dog. And I don't think I ever got to pet the dog. She named the dog slept in bed with her. Every time I mentioned I got a third of that dog, you know, I didn't get it, and the dog didn't hunt. And so I didn't want the dog anyway.
was a what, an 8-inch Pekingese.
It was a mutt.
The dog
it's just, you know, years later, Melanie got me my Red Ryder BB gun. So no whining. I got to let it go.
Oh, and she let you drive her. I mean, she was one of the first to buy actually a nice car because she worked food service when she was in college.
Yeah.
And you got to drive that car on dates. She was nice to you, Joel.
Well, try to make out with a girl in a Pinto. You know, so let's just be honest.
Worrying about whether you're going to explode.
Exactly. Well, no, it wasn't that. There was a stick shift. It wasn't exactly the biggest car for a football player like me. But hey, I did get the car. I will acknowledge that.
Listen, you know, we hope that everybody listening thinks about the kinds of memories that they're making with their families, the kinds of opportunities that you have, like Kellie, to participate in the community. It's an ethic, I think. You know, I'm not one of those people, Joel, who always says, oh, rural America, it's got so much more ethical behavior, but this is a rural tradition to help out, especially during the holidays. And so if you're listening, you know, the holiday is 12 days and make the most of it. And it is truly factual. It is better to give than it is to receive.
Well, and here's the thing. If you don't have traditions in the holidays like the Heitkamps have, start them. I mean, start traditions and then do it again next year and find out what was fun. And the next thing you know, you'll be saying, I can't wait to get home and do that again. And that's what One Country is all about. It really is.
And as somebody who once upon a time did 20 gingerbread houses with young people, you can get rid of some of those traditions too.
Yeah, it was pretty cool what you did.
It was. I mean, but now they're all older, and you know, you adjust and you adapt, and you know, Holly used to make them all sing Christmas carols and play whatever instruments they had in the band.
Everybody sees Holly coming on the holidays; they run the other way. We all love her. Next thing you know, we're playing Christmas trivia, and she's got sheets already this year. So be happy. Yes. Be happy that you had a new grandbaby and you're on the West Coast, you know, because you don't have to play them. So, folks,
Merry Christmas, Joel.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you, Heidi, and Merry Christmas to that family and that beautiful new granddaughter you have.
Thanks for joining us today on The Hot Dish. brought to you by One Country Project, making sure the voices of the rest of us are heard in Washington.
Learn more at onecountryproject.org. That's onecountryproject.org. Follow us on Substack, Facebook, Blue Sky, and YouTube. We'll be back next week with more hot dish comfort food for rural America. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Topica.